Yes.
Hello everyone, welcome to For His Namesake. We're glad that you're here on this beautiful day. Today, Valentine and I are going to interview Mike and how it was for him to live with a difficult father. And so I will begin with the first question. I observed that your father was a difficult man to live with. Would you say he was easily angered, and what triggered his anger?
Well, yes, he was kind of easily angered. It didn't take a whole lot to get him angry. Now, what triggered it could vary from a lot of things, but mainly was just not listening to him and not paying attention to his advice or anything like that.
Did others know that Papa, that's what I called him, did others know that Papa was difficult or unkind to you and Mama?
No, they didn't really know that because that was kind of kept in the family. She didn't say and I didn't say.
Okay. How did you handle your father's anger towards you? What are some of the things that you did? For example, did you go to your room? Did you yell back? What did you do?
Well, let's see. When I was younger, you just didn't do that. Didn't talk back much because you knew kind of how it was. As you get older, in the teenage years, you tend to talk back more. You tend to, this is what I think, and this is wrong, or this is right, well, you're not going to win any of those arguments, and that's just how that was. But things can get pretty heated, certain things were said that is, very hurtful.
Did you and Papa ever share nice moments together?
Yes, we had lots of nice moments. I guess that may be surprising somewhat, but no, it's he was very nice, except for certain times when he wasn't nice.
Okay. Briefly share some ways that your father showed contempt towards you.
Well, contempt, well, he did try to run me over at the pickup one time. But
you can explain why.
Yeah, we were
you give a background of who you were.
I grew up as a farmer, a farmer's kid, and he was, even at that time I was, a teenager or whatever. I don't remember how old I was, if I was older than that or if I was renting it from him and on my own, but he was still kind of the boss, even if I was in charge. It's kind of weird. But yeah, we were have some kind of disagreement, and he got frustrated with me and basically tried to run me over with a pickup. I was opening a gate and in a fence, and knocked me over with the pickup. Had to hold on to it so I didn't get run over. That sounds scary. It was scary. He's like, what? He didn't realize even what he did. I don't think. I had not a clue. And it really got heated when I got more serious with Martina and spending more time with her, and he was getting irritated with that because I wasn't spending enough time at the farm, and that led to some, basically I was not, it wasn't worth it, Martina wasn't worth it, I wasn't worth anything, and it was just terrible. He's just a terrible things.
And for clarity, did you continue to work for him after you were married?
For a little bit. We got married in mid '92, and not too long after you were born. We were kind of forced, quote unquote, to leave and go somewhere else because we just couldn't deal with it anymore.
And for reasons why we left some more, you can look at the Q&A, what it means to have a godly marriage.
Okay. Okay. Would you say your father became more difficult and easily angered over the years, or was it pretty much steady, the same kind of anger?
Similar kind of anger. Yeah, it didn't change a whole lot. What didn't help it as he got older was his hearing was going out, and he got frustrated because he couldn't understand what me and my mother were talking about. So that would make him angry. He just gets frustrated with things that he disagreed with, that he didn't think were right. Just to clarify some, he grew up he was poor. Grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and with a mother and father who they didn't speak English. Had a lot of kids, 12, 13, brothers and sisters. Didn't have anything, and then he got drafted into the World War II, and was at Pearl Harbor, not after the attack, and him and his brothers were all drafted. Most of them were old enough to be drafted. So I think at one time, there were 5 that were in Europe and other places, and I don't know if that led to his anger issues, but he never talked about it. He never talked about what he experienced there at all. So who knows where that anger all came from.
Right.
Many view God, our Heavenly Father, with their earthly father's personality. Did you ever compare the two?
Not really. No, I didn't do that. I could tell the difference between the two and kind of left it that way.
That's good. And when your father was in his 80s, he accepted Jesus as his personal Savior. Did you notice a change in heart from him towards you during that time?
I would have to say yes. But it's a tentative yes. He's better, but he could still get angry, but it was more subdued than it used to be.
I think it also helped that when he did become saved, I don't think we were living as close.
No, we weren't.
Quarters.
We weren't there at all.
Right,
So,
yeah. That's true.
A safe distance.
Except for during Christmas or Thanksgiving, special holidays, things like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you at any time ever say to yourself, if you ever became a dad, you would do things differently or treat your children differently than your father treated you?
I can't recall ever having that conversation with myself. I just want, I had kind of my ideals of what a father was, and I was going to try to do that, but not purposely not do things like he did.
Okay. Yeah. I think we asked all the questions, but can we think of anything else? Or?
Yeah, do I have anything else?
Well, do you think he ever took it out on you personally because you didn't have any other siblings? Was he mad that you were the only child? Was he hoping for more?
He was just glad I wasn't a girl.
Yes.
That was one thing he was adamant about, that my mom told him, that I heard from my mom, that he was like, you better have a girl, you better have a boy. A girl's useless on a farm.
I'm not making fun, but
that's what I remember her saying. It's like, like, wow. So I'm glad I was a boy. So that put extra pressure on me to, grow up to take his place, because he was molding me, to be in the next in line to run the farm, and they put a lot of pressure on me.
Right. Yeah.
And speaking of when you were born, did he choose your name or did Mom choose your name? Because he goes by 2 different names, and so I'm wondering which parent chose which name.
But don't reveal the first name.
Well, let's see. As far as I know, my mother chose my first name, my dad chose my middle name, but he said we're going to call him by his middle name.
Which is what you guys know him as, Mike.
But don't actually reveal, because that'll be...
So that's so that's how that was. Yeah, he was, it had to be a boy, and it's going to be called this. And that's how it was.
Yeah, right. And since you were farming a lot, you probably, for some time I lived there in the home with them because I didn't have a place to stay. My parents were overseas and I was done with college. And so just a quick backstory, I was living with them in the house, but I had my own room. And so I got to observe his father firsthand and the mother and how they interacted with each other. And he was, and we're not here to talk bad about someone in the sense of gossiping. We're just trying to see what it was like for someone to live with a very difficult, angry person, or got angry a lot. And so when I was living there, I got to see that firsthand, and I'll never forget. That was the first time I had seen that, actually, and I was saying bye to Mike as he was going to work, and I wanted to follow him out the door, and his father put his hand, or his whole arm rather, in front of the door and said, "You're not going anywhere. You are staying here. A woman stays in the house. The men go outside to work." And I thought, wow. I mean, because I came from a totally different lifestyle. I was very worldly, had been around the world and back, and wasn't brought up that way on the country on a farm with that kind of mentality where men were outside and women were inside. So that right there was a shock to me. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but he just did it so angrily like, and his facial expressions were so scary. I knew that he knew business. In other words, don't cross him, don't make him angry, just do what I was told and just back off and go. So that's an example of just how angry he would get. And I was kind of a newbie. I was kind of new in the home. I mean, we didn't really know each other that well. So that was a bit of a wow. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. And do we have any other questions or... Oh yeah, did you ever notice that he was ever angry a lot with your mother? Because I know that you were kind of what they call a mama's boy as well. That's what your mother would always say. So did you ever notice that he was very easily angered with your mother, and how did that make you feel?
Well, I didn't know a lot of that because there's some things that you would say to her when I wasn't in the house or whatever, and I didn't get to hear a lot of this.
And you knew this how?
Because
you were in the house.
because maybe after dinner or something, they would be talking or whatever. But I kind of stayed to myself, a good bit when I was getting older. But I didn't really hear too much. I heard of things, from other people, but I didn't get to see it, firsthand.
Did your mother ever tell you, your daddy hurt my feelings today, or
Nope.
he said this to me today, or he yelled at me, or he...
Nope.
She never shared that with you or anyone else?
She kept it to herself.
Okay.
She was kind of a battered wife, and she pretty much behaved that way. She didn't tell... He never touched her, but just emotionally,
Verbal.
A lot of her verbal abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Same with me. It was just verbal abuse, but you didn't mess with him.
Right.
You didn't mess with him then.
Yeah. And when she witnessed Papa being mean to you, did she try to be the peacemaker?
Yes, she did try that, but you can only go so far. But it did help a little bit.
Yeah. And just, she would tell me things because when we were engaged, then I was going to be the future daughter-in-law, so we got to be kind of close there in the beginning before we got married even. And so she would tell me her darkest, deepest secrets and things like that, and would share a lot about just how cruel he could be, his father rather, in just verbally. And then we did see some of, obviously when you're living there, you see that going on as well. So yeah, it was, and even after he became a Christian, as we have done in previous videos, there is a sanctification process that goes on. Just because you're saved doesn't mean you're going to be all wonderful for the Lord. I mean, you might be on fire for the Lord, but you still have to go through that sanctification process where you are, where God is tweaking us for the fruits of to produce the fruits of the Spirit and so forth. And we didn't get to see that in him. I think he kind of died soon after he became a Christian. Correct? Is that correct? So we didn't get to see that. So there was still that, that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, the same happened with him. He was set in his ways. So he still had a bit of that anger problem. That doesn't go away just with a snap of a finger. That's something that, God works it through us. But
that's right.
He passed on before he could be refined in the fire, as we learned in our previous talk about refining in the fires. So yeah.
It is odd. He was a difficult man. He was quite around me, so I didn't have a relationship with him. But yet he still managed to be popular.
Yes.
Kind of the outside appearance, where no one can really see the inside of the family. But his funeral service, I remember, I must have been like 11 or 12. A lot of people, I think that was the largest funeral I'd ever been to.
Yeah.
A lot of people came, and every year they would have 4th of July gatherings, and so we had a lot of family come over for that too.
And for Christmas Eve services, fireworks, and
So it's kind of weird. You can't judge a book by its cover, as they say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But at least he's in heaven, so that's the good news. Mm-hmm. He accepted Jesus as his personal savior, and his mom was already a Christian, so that's good. So,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the happy ending.
That's right.
Okay, I think we pretty much covered everything. And if y'all have any questions that you want to ask Mike, be sure to put them down in the comments below, and
sure.
I'm sure he'll be glad to answer them for you. Or you can send a personal email to us as well.
All right.
What's the address again? I should know the address, but Valentine
For
knows
his namesake, that's 2 S's, 106@gmail.com.
Yes.
And let us know if you've ever lived with a difficult parent, whether verbally or physically. We can only imagine what it must have been like for you, and if you're still struggling with that, send us a note or a comment if you're comfortable.
Right.
And we hope that you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and until next time, we hope that you have a blessed day.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.